Feeling the rage about AI and data farms? I hear you, sister. But here's why us crones must not ignore it, nor let it divide us either. So I'm having coffee with a new crone and we're chatting about AI. She tells me she's recently been unfriended because she dared to comment positively on an article about AI. Do people think we aren't also furious about the environmental impact of data farms? Do you think we also don't fear the dark moral implications of AI and worry about its misuse? Or maybe like me, you're a terrified creative, worried it's mining your intellectual property, your ideas, your creativity, without payment, without permission, and without so much as a named citation. Well, I'm with you, sister, and I get it, all of it. But the other unfortunate truth is this: AI is already here. Pandora's box is wide open and it's not going to get shut again just because a bunch of us crones try to not use ChatGPT. As I'm sitting down to write this Tits to the Wind about crones and AI, a Buddhist story comes to me like a daydream, which I will now proceed to perimenopausally paraphrase. Difficult phrase to say. Okay, so here we go. There's a wise crone in a cave, right? Frenzied, crazed demons are all darting around her, whipping up the wind, trying to make her feel frightened. And yet, she calmly goes about, laying out the twigs for her fire so she can make her morning cup of tea. The demons don't like this and they're getting more and more agitated, flying at her head, getting tangled in her hair. But she simply smiles as she lights the fire and sets the kettle on top. The demons are baffled and begin to scream and howl at each other. The noise is deafening. And yet the crone continues to lay out cups and saucers for tea neatly on her tablecloth. The demons by this point have had enough and ask her, "Why don't you give in to these voices of fear?" But she just pours the boiling water from the kettle into the teapot and then turns and looks them squarely in the face with a calm yet curious smile of amused mischief. "Very well," she says, "I will tell you. I have been there before, I will be there again. And in the meantime, what kind of tea would you like?" A little bit of Buddhist humour for you there. So for me, this story personifies the key qualities of what Dr. Jean Shinoda Bolin calls the green and juicy crone. The green and juicy crone does not allow fear to drive her thoughts or actions. The crone may look a little bit fragile in her older age, but her feet are so rooted in the soil that she cannot be buffeted by fear-based narratives. She remains calm and, above all, curious. The crone has been alive long enough to have personally witnessed many historical happenings in her time, each billed as being the biggest threat to humanity. And yet she survived each one. The crone has seen change come and go. She is old enough to carry the stories of her mother and her great-grandmother with her, and still has room for the new stories of the grandchildren she cares for. Crones have a wisdom wingspan so vast that she can soar on the eddies of change without being battered by them. And yes, AI may just be the biggest revolution in human short time here on Earth. And yes, unless we get some global agreement on the rules of how we use it, it could very well turn out to be the thing that wipes us out, no less than we deserve, you could argue, and the thing that kills the planet at the same time. That's if that repulsive orange man-child doesn't blow us all up first or make us kill each other. But that doesn't take away from the uncomfortable truth that AI has actually been here for a while, operating quietly in the background of platforms we use every day, often without us knowing it. So rather than us putting our fingers over our ears, or worse still, shaming other sisters for using it, what might a crone approach to AI actually look like? A healthy crone approach, let's call it. The next heading is, we have been here before. and I show a picture of an anti-electricity propaganda from the early 1900s. Check out this brilliant bit of old school anti-electricity propaganda. It's from the early 1900s when the electricity, as it was called, suddenly arrived in the public imagination. A new, mysterious, terrifying thing that apparently was determined to kill us all. Electricity promised amazing things, bright streets, electric lights in your house, new machines, modern life. But it also stoked widespread fear, with newspapers loving nothing more than gruesome stories about electrocution. There was also a rather grubby corporate battle going on behind the scenes. Does this ring any bells? Edison was championing direct current, DC, while Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla were pushing alternative currents, AC. This became known in America as the War of the Currents. And the competing companies were very happy to play on people's fears about technology. Edison, in particular, for example, went as far as publicly electrocuting animals using AC electricity just to demonstrate how dangerous it was. Now, being a Gen Xer, I wasn't around for the electricity revolution, obs, but I was lucky enough to be the first generation to experience the technology revolution firsthand. Picture the scene. It's sometime in the 1990s. If you can remember the 1990s, you weren't doing it well enough. And I'm sitting at our one and only Macintosh computer, shared between everyone in our graphic design studio. I've just been briefed to write the copy for a leaflet for our client, the Rotherham Chamber of Commerce, to promote this new thing called the Information Superhighway. And I, for one, am excited. For research, I'd usually go to the library to read real books, but of course, this was so new that there were no books written about it yet. I do have a vague recollection, however, of going to see an academic at the university who, it was rumoured, had it. I remember him connecting with a modem phone line to proudly show me the dental records of some random person in America. I remember a rather awkward 10 minutes while we both stood watching an image of an X-ray of an American's teeth appear line by line on the screen before us. To break the silence, he tells me in a hushed whisper about another webpage he'd heard about on the grapevine, where people scanned their cats on photocopiers and shared the amusing results. Can anyone else remember CatScan? Yes, younger readers, these were much simpler times. But much as I enjoyed the eclectic nature of these two examples shared by this academic, I was already thinking about even more relevant uses for the potential of this new technology. At the time, I wrote a monthly magazine for wire rope manufacturers Bryden, based in Donny. Sites from all around the world would fax us handwritten stories for the newsletter, most of which were illegible, and it took me ages to type it all up. But what if they came on this thing called email straight to an Apple Mac instead? My bosses asked me to write a cost-benefit analysis of why we should get the internet, and it was successful. And all the email was then sent to our one Apple Mac in the corner of the studio, and each morning our office administrator, Maxine, printed off the emails and put them into our pigeonholes. Jude, if you're reading, I'll never forget the horror on your face when you joined us and realised we were printing out emails and putting them in pigeonholes. Now, I was lucky because as a child, our junior school was one of the first in the country to have an early Apple Mac. And the headmaster even let me take home that beautiful high gloss Apple Mac sticker with the coloured, of the apple with the coloured stripes with the bite taken out of it, the old Apple logo. I can still smell that vinyl sticker now. Oh my God, it smelled amazing. Had the same exciting smell as a new Wendy house. But it wasn't just the beautiful aesthetics of the Apple Mac brand that excited me, although that was a big part, let's be honest. It was also what it did. So for some reason, I was the one who was chosen to show off the Apple Mac's potential to interested visiting grown-ups, even though at the time we could only really do two things with the Apple Mac. The first was a rudimentary maths game, which worked by hooking up the Mac to an external circuit pegboard, bizarrely. The grown-ups standing behind me would gasp with amazement at this new technology. And my second trick was to show them how to search a thing called a database about births and deaths from the local village. And I loved sharing this one. It was like having a secret phone line to people of the past. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a smoker's cough. Back in the room. A few years later at home, we were also lucky enough to get a ZX Spectrum 2. Thanks, brothers, for waking mum and dad for that one. And I don't know if you remember, but those tactile rubber keys with that like little nipple nodule behind each of the keys made typing endless pages of code from magazines bought down the road an absolute joy to type for hours and hours. Until you got to the end of typing in all that code and the fucking game didn't work. A meltdown would, of course, ensue, and Mum, sorry about that, would often bear the brunt of my rage. And then my programming skills were instead gainfully employed in technological apologies, which would go something along the lines of 10 print, sorry Mum, 20 go to 10. And then it'd just repeat it all over a screen. Sorry Mum, sorry Mum. So when the internet came along, needless to say, I was pretty goddamn excited. I did endless presentations to anyone who would listen about its potential to do good in the world. Because to my mind, this could be the thing to connect niche, unheard voices together to support each other. My God, with the on-site of like websites like They Work For You, that report where you could find who your politician was and you could download how they voted in every debate in Parliament. Just simple websites like that. It could even be the thing to save democracy. And then as technology got smaller and cheaper, I left the agency to run community journalism programmes to train those without a voice in mainstream society so that individuals could tell their own stories in their own way. My first cohort of community journalists got involved in the Age Better bid for Sheffield, and the content they created helped Sheffield win £6 million, I know, from the big lottery to reduce social isolation and loneliness amongst older people. So, local, real proof, if any were still needed, that technology could really be used locally on the ground as a force for good. I just need to blow my nose now. I've got a handkerchief. That's what you can do when you have a crown. Sorry about that. Okay, the next heading is, we will be there again. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's rare to be exposed to positive news about AI. Not least because once again, we are stuck in a fear-based news cycle. Not just about AI, but with everything. Okay, so as humans are hardwired for fear. It's been key to our early survival. It's been great for helping us run away from animals that are going to eat us or poison us. Fear, to that extent, has kept us alive. Super. But for me, as a neurospicy creative who was always made to feel afraid that I see the world differently, it's also been the thing that's held me back. Fear has weighed me down. Fear of not understanding the rules, fear of getting things wrong, fear of being found out. The psychological impact of fear on the brain is now well known as well. So as our amygdala fires and shuts down our prefrontal cortex and further prevents us from making nuanced decisions or our ability to plan for the future. Capitalism and the dark right know this about fear too. They love to whip up fear because fear pays. Those at the top, obviously. as we are all told to go out and buy more stuff to protect us from the latest threat. Afraid of being shot? Buy more guns. Afraid of getting wrinkles? Buy more collagen. Buy the next most expensive face cream. Buy some surgery. Why the hell not? But fear is also the best way of whipping up division. Divide and conquer, toxic othering, are political tactics as old as the hills. Yes, Farage, the Crones see you. Getting everyone to look down and throw stones at the small boats just so they don't look up at you and your billionaire pals sailing away on your fuck-off luxury yacht. So when we notice ourselves being made to feel the fear about AI every time we turn on the news or are fed an AI article, maybe us crones need to take a breath and ask ourselves why. Could it be that they want us to be afraid of AI so that older women exclude themselves from shaping it, from training it? And if we put our hands over our ears and boycott it as conscientious objectors, yet again, older women's voices will be excluded from the stories of history. Now is the time to ask ourselves, if crones aren't writing the stories that AI is getting fed to learn from, then who is? And maybe this should be the way of supercharging our reclaiming crone identity. And I've written a little bit about that in an Advantages of Age article, which I will share in links. So once again, I choose to take the path of the green and juicy crone. And rather than put my hands over my ears out of fear, I choose to face it head on, but with a crone curiosity and a learning mindset. And in the meantime, what kind of tea would you like?